Coming up, it's a special one-hour presentation of Food Icons Unwrapped. Get up close and personal with the characters that make what we eat neat. They're oldies but goodies.
That's right.
Classic cereal characters and real-life personalities. Find out how these images are created from the ad agency to animation. Hunt for collectibles, both old and new, and reunite with the faces that have faded away. Hear the stories behind the images America has grown up with on Food Icons Unwrapped.
Hi, welcome to Unwrapped. I'm Mark Summers. Today we're getting up close and personal with some of the most popular personalities in the world, the faces who sell us what we eat. From the Campbell's Soup Kids to the M&Ms, we're taking an inside look at these commercial characters. The idea of the ad icon was born in the late 1800s as items began to sell nationwide, and marketers realized that putting a face on their product made their packages stand out. And some of the earliest ideas proved to be the most long-lasting.
Smiling faces have been enticing us from store shelves for well over 100 years. Human characters were the first personalities of food, and one of the oldest ad icons still in use today is the Quaker Oats Man, debuting in 1891. Ironically, no one involved in starting the Quaker Oats Company was actually a Quaker. But they picked the name and picture because they thought it gave their products a healthy image.
Get in step, get pep, Sunbeam is the way, he's in the lead.
Since early on, children have also proven to be good salespeople, like Little Miss Sunbeam, because they give the brand a wholesome feel.
You need Sunbeam for energy.
And perhaps the most famous child characters still in use today are the Campbell Kids. Highly collectible as well as adorable, these super kids have been around since 1904. With cute names like Sammy Snooks and Dottie Dumpling to match cherubic faces, the characters were an instant success, appearing in streetcar ads, window displays, and on 1 million souvenir postcards. And in 1910, Campbell Kids dolls were offered, complete with Can't Break 'em heads. Another old but youthful success is the Jell-O Girl. She was first drawn in 1908 and was modeled after a real girl named Elizabeth King, daughter of a Jell-O advertising artist. And perhaps it was her popularity that inspired other little girls to follow, like this famous face.
Mary Jane was invented by the Charles N. Miller Company, and it was named after his favorite aunt, Mary Jane. There may be a few little tweaks in Mary Jane, but we don't really change her image. She still has her Mary Jane classic shoes on.
Mary Jane may have stayed the same since 1914, but another famous girl her same age certainly has changed. The Morton Salt Girl has undergone 6 makeovers through the years, but has kept her same classic image since 1968. Putting people on packages was the beginning of an ongoing advertising phenomenon. Whether they make the product seem trustworthy or recognizable, one thing's for sure: these images remain truly memorable.
One of the first ad characters debuting in the 1880s is still going strong, Aunt Jemima. And when the company hired a woman to act as Aunt Jemima at the 1883 Chicago World Expo, it was the first time a real person was used to portray an advertising character. So let's take a look at more of the classic faces.
We know them. We love them. And food culture author Carolyn Wyman is an expert on them. And she says one of the most successful early food icons was Borden Foods' Elsie the cow, thanks to the succession of real cows who once portrayed her.
This cow would be brought to different cities. She got the key to like 170 cities. She got like college degrees.
some icons played a major role in changing a food's image. The spiffy Mr. Peanut helped change peanuts from the humble to the high class. Other characters became so popular, they actually changed the company.
In 1944, the United Fruit Company introduced Chiquita Banana, who was this sort of Carmen Miranda type figure. Like many of these icons, when they're successful, what happens is the company sort of adopts that name, and so, Chiquita became the name of the company as well.
Icons can be very simple.
Take the product, add arms and legs, like the Wrigley Spearman is a classic example of that.
Other icons needed some very careful fine-tuning. The Jolly Green Giant is fun and friendly, but have you ever noticed that he never walks?
He moves, he bends, he ho-ho-hos, but he never walks. That's because in 1959 he did walk once in an ad, and everybody agreed that he looked like a monster out of a horror picture, and they said he is never walking again.
Then there are the icons that seem so real, people forget they don't really exist.
To give the example of Betty Crocker, at one point, Ernest Hemingway's wife wrote to Betty Crocker because they were in Africa, and she wanted advice on helping the locals with their flour and making it better.
And icons themselves do change with the times. For example, the Kool-Aid pitcher went from barely moving in his ads in the 50s to becoming a very active icon in the 70s and 80s.
But I think really what they're trying to do is show that, kids who ate Kool-Aid could be, vital and active.
No matter how they look or what they sell, Wyman thinks food icons will always have a special place in the consumer's heart.
Food plays such an important role in our lives and are much more important than just products, just commodities. They're really part of our lives.
Ahead in this hour, take a backstage look at how characters are created. Visit the advertising mastermind behind many of the classics. Then, discover animated secrets behind the California Raisins. Stick around for more food icons unwrapped.
Welcome back to Unwrapped. What do Charlie the Tuna, the Pillsbury Doughboy, the Jolly Green Giant, and Tony the Tiger all have in common? Not only are they some of the most famous commercial icons of all time, but they are all the brainchildren of one advertiser, Leo Burnett. Oh, Leo.
They're baked in a hollow tree, and there's no factory.
Have this prescription filled. Gets rid of elves in no time.
Free, get ready for a wild ride.
Follow your nose wherever it goes.
What kind of job should you get if you want to spend the day doodling and playing with elves? Try being a creature keeper at the Leo Burnett Advertising Agency in Chicago, Illinois.
My wife says I'm a 13-year-old in a 34-year-old body.
Today, these creative types watch over a stable of critters including Toucan Sam and Snap, Crackle, and Pop. And the agency has become a star in its own right by creating classic icons like the Keebler Elves and the Pillsbury Doughboy.
You get a reputation sometimes because some people say, oh yeah, you guys are the critter agency. You could be called worse things than the critter agency.
In 1935, Leo Burnett opened his doors with the help of the Jolly Green Giant. Using his background as a newspaper reporter, Burnett too became an industry giant by turning sales pitches into fun stories.
I think Keebler elves are a great example. There's a whole story, there's a whole world where the elves come from and the story that they tell.
Everybody, join the club.
Elfin Magic has been selling cookies and crackers for more than 30 years. Other icons like Tony the Tiger and the Doughboy have been selling for more than 50.
When you bake in the oven.
But the Tony Grandma remembers is a far different cat from the one preschoolers laugh at today.
Time wisely.
That's because his keepers make sure characters are user-friendly in the 21st century.
I think it's a fine line to walk, especially if you have a character that's been around for a while. Sometimes you don't want to change too much. On the other hand, you do want to keep it fresh and relevant.
Freshening up Snap, Crackle, and Pop's TV look is one of those continuing, delicate balances. Since their creation in the 1930s, the trio has gone from wise elves to playful friends. And this time around, there's a new twist.
What we've done, and what you'll see in the future, is we've made Snap, Crackle, and Pop brothers.
This wasn't in my contract.
Which has not been communicated in the past. They're brothers.
Get out of the chocolate!
Who can't relate to a little sibling rivalry? But even the best ideas have to be developed and approved by the cereal company. The process starts with black and white drawings called storyboards. In their first commercial, the brothers are creating chaos at a photo shoot.
And, you put the three boys in a situation, they get together, friendly sibling rivalry, something's going to happen. It's just not going the way this photographer planned it.
Wait, this is my agent. Sid, baby.
Once the basic idea is approved, it's test time.
Testing's a big factor. We do this thing called animatics. That's one of the things. It's kind of like, back when you're kids, it's kind of like color forms type of thing, where kind of like stick figures, and they kind of get the process before we go into the final animation process.
As the story comes to life, the kinks are ironed out, and Snap, Crackle, and Pop are once again superstars worthy of Saturday morning cartoons.
They're just fun to look at. They're entertaining, and that kind of personifies the brand. It's fun and it's entertaining. So it's cool.
Working with these characters might seem like fun and games, but at the end of the day, it's a serious responsibility. That's because the real bottom line with these sales characters is about maintaining a cherished tradition.
And once these things catch on, once they're around for a while, they become part of, of your life, and they're like your friends from the past. So, those of us who've grown up with Tony or grew up with the Doughboy or the Charlie Green Giant, that's just all part of this wonderful Americana and our heritage and our characters and our icons that were part of our lives.
Here are a couple of more tidbits about Leo Burnett's creations. The original voice of Poppin' Fresh was a man named Paul Frees. His range was so good it's hard to believe he was also the voice of Boris Badenoff in the Rocky and Bullwinkle cartoons. And Toucan Sam, the colors on his nose represent the colors of the cereal.
Coming up on Food Icons Unwrapped, more secrets revealed about the characters America loves to bring home. Discover how lumps of clay dance their way into advertising history. Learn the story behind this classic clown and find out who first stepped into the costume. Plus, stick around for Colonel Sanders, M&Ms, and the Yum Yum Bumblebee Boy. All this and more when we continue.
Welcome back. I'm Mark Summers. Television opened up a whole new world for advertisers. Their cute little characters could now come to life in commercials. And since then, animation has certainly come a long way with the help of groundbreaking techniques like claymation. Now I want you to meet the man who molded the art form with a look at this classic creation, the California Raisins.
They're rowdy, they're wrinkled, and they're the biggest thing to happen to raisins since the sun started shining. The California Raisins transformed a simple snack into a pop culture icon. These Sultans of Sun became so popular, they've even been inducted into the Smithsonian.
Can't really explain the phenomenon, why people collected them, why people still collect them. Touched a nerve, I guess.
It all started in the mid-'80s when an advertising agency came to Will Vinton Studios with a song stuck in their heads.
They came to us with the idea already, which was a good idea, of using the song I Heard It Through the Grapevine. We really took our cues from that song and said, okay, let's go with Motown style.
Personifying characters is Will Vinton's specialty. This is the man who trademarked the term claymation and literally molded the art form into what it is today. Besides the California Raisins, Vinton Studios is the creative force behind the Domino's Noid, Phantom Man, and countless other animated characters. But it's the Raisins who sang and danced their way into history.
To make a character successful, you want to find a sense of humor, a sense of attitude, personality.
We approach these things by doodling, by brainstorming, by playing with story ideas, and then looking at what we've got in front of us.
After countless hours of drawing and sketching, a character is ready to make its debut. A lump of clay will soon become a booming personality through the art of combining clay with stop-motion animation.
Stop motion is a very old process. It just involves taking an object or a puppet or something and manipulating it a very small amount for each frame, and then shooting a picture, manipulating that a little bit more, shooting another picture. A good animator can animate about 3 seconds, maybe 4 seconds in a day, at best, really.
If you can only shoot one frame at a time, how do you get a raisin to dance?
A lot of times we will shoot reference film. We'll bring in actors and have them go through, particularly if it's a dance move or something, we'll bring them in and we'll have them actually perform it.
It's an old process that continues to reshape itself.
We've been a stalwart, a pioneer in dimensional animation from way back. Now we're using, very extensively digital tools. We do an awful lot of computer animation.
While this may be the way of the future, the Raisins will always be remembered as a special part of America's past.
One advertising character who first came to life with just the help of a costume is Ronald McDonald. One recent survey says that 96% of American children recognize Ronald, which is a much larger percentage than those who could recognize the president. So what's the craze all about? It's time for the autobiography of the clown and his cohorts.
They're almost as familiar as the food they sell. A close-knit crew of characters known as the McDonaldland Gang, led by the smiling, dancing clown, Ronald. These advertising icons have become such big stars that at conventions like this one, people gather to browse, barter, and buy their favorite McDonald's characters in just about every form.
The last purchase is the cookie jar, Grimace cookie jar. I have 3 other character cookie jars and then the Ronald McDonald House cookie jar, so I think I have them all now.
Ruling over all the others is, of course, Ronald, the clown prince of McDonaldland.
Hey, isn't watching TV fun? Especially when you got
Ronald showed up 7 years after the first McDonald's opened in 1955, debuting in a 1963 TV ad.
Oh, we've already met. I know we're going to be friends, too, because I like to do everything boys and girls like to do, especially when it comes to eating those...
Recognize that voice? Yep, it's none other than TV weatherman Willard Scott, starring as the first Ronald.
We'll have lots of fun.
Through the years, Ronald McDonald has gone to the zoo, ridden a flying hamburger, even been reduced to a mere puppet.
And if you notice on his pockets here, it's got the slashed McDonald's arch. It's on McDonald's items from 1963 to 1968.
And in 1964, McDonald's launched another icon.
Also in this case is a character called Archie, and he's on about 12 different items. Here, he's on a wet nap.
But Archie lacked the clown's charisma, and he soon disappeared. In the early 1970s, McDonaldland's population slowly grew with an assortment of characters. The Hamburglar, Grimace, Mayor McCheese, Captain Crook, the Professor, and Big Mac.
This is Big Mac. I got a little stand. I bought a little stand for him.
Each icon has a distinct personality. The Grimace craves milkshakes, the Mayor makes speeches, and the Hamburglar, well, he steals things.
Years ago, McDonald's made the Hamburglar a real ugly guy. But in later years, they changed his face and appearance, and now he's a little happy guy.
Of course, Ronald has also changed from his first appearances back in the 60s. But one thing seems to stay the same. When it comes to selling burgers, he's not just clowning around. Coming up in our next half hour, he's much more than just a face on a bucket. Find out about the real man behind the white suit. And search for character collectibles with an expert icon hunter. Find out his valuable secrets. Just ahead on Food Icons Unwrapped.
Welcome back to Unwrapped. In some cases, company owners become the spokespeople for their product, but perhaps no one has turned their real-life image into a bigger-than-life icon than the perfect pitchman, Colonel Sanders.
Did you know there are some children who don't believe in Colonel Sanders?
In a world filled with imaginary characters, it can be hard to tell truth from fiction.
Yes, Virginia. There really is a Colonel Sanders.
When it comes to food icons, one real person stands out from the make-believe. Colonel Sanders is so legendary, his only real competition? Another white-bearded man.
He was somewhere in between a beloved grandfather and Santa Claus to most people.
Although his suit was not red, it was just as recognizable.
The white suit, white beard, and the white hair.
He was a good-looking fellow, had a nice beard.
The Colonel wore his white suit every day of the year, even when he was invited to very prestigious black tie events.
The Colonel's famous white duds became part of his trademark after a public appearance.
Several people came up and said, "Oh, Colonel, you just don't know how you stood out in that white suit." And the light bulb went on, and he thought, I'm going to wear a white suit from now on.
The Colonel turned his real life into the perfect advertising icon.
He had a knack for marketing. He was a marketing genius.
With his picture on billions of buckets, Colonel Sanders remains one of the most recognizable people in the world more than 20 years after his death. Not just for his image, but also for his chicken. Harlan Sanders first learned to cook at the age of 5 while caring for his younger brother and sister.
He learned about seasonings, when other little boys were out playing with balls and kicking rocks.
It wasn't until the age of 40 that Sanders opened his first restaurant in the most unlikely setting.
The Colonel first started serving food to people off his own dining room table in this little gas station that he had bought in Corbin, Kentucky.
Word of the Colonel's cooking got out, and as business grew, he began perfecting the secret recipe that would make him famous.
When he put that in his mouth and tasted it, he thought, this is the best chicken I have ever cooked.
In 1952, the Colonel took his recipe on the road, selling it to small restaurants for a 5-cent royalty on each chicken sold. Today, there are more than 7,000 KFC restaurants around the world. At KFC headquarters in Louisville, Kentucky, the secret blend of 11 herbs and spices is kept hidden inside a vault. But they proudly display some of the Colonel's most cherished mementos.
This is the Colonel's very first pressure cooker that he used to perfect the recipe. Norman Rockwell painted this portrait of the Colonel in 1978.
Sanders took a simple recipe and grew it into an empire where he was Colonel, an honorary title given to him by Kentucky's governor in the mid-1930s. No doubt, he's been the most well-known Colonel of all time.
The Colonel decided, I'm going to live this and I'm going to be a Colonel every day.
If you want Kentucky Fried Chicken, you have to visit me.
Colonel Sanders isn't just famous here in America. KFC is sold in over 80 countries around the world, and while his image is somewhat commonplace, there are those elusive icon collectibles out there hiding in flea markets and on the internet. But we're going to take you on the hunt with a collector extraordinaire to see what's really worth searching for.
This is the thrilling story of the few, the fearless, the fanatic, food face finders.
Can I get two?
Randy Jones, his wife Kelly, and friends are engaged in an endless mission to seek out and buy rare icons wherever they may be found.
I'm going to hit it.
All right, we'll
find
go.
some stuff.
All right, good luck.
So what kind of stuff are they seeking?
Oh, Captain Crunch, Bob's Big Boy, Chicken Delight, Jolly Green Giant, Funny Face, some that I've probably never even heard of.
Today the hunt starts here in the pre-dawn hours at a Los Angeles flea market.
You never really know what's going to turn up out here, so we're just out here hunting. It's real early in the morning, it's cold, and hopefully something will turn up when we see it.
So while everyone else is still sleeping, Randy is out searching. Every weekend he roams the aisles of the flea market, hoping to add to his collection of advertising icons. And as the sun comes up, the deals come out.
Here's an icon, Bob's Big Boy. Can I pull a couple out? This is a staple of the swap meet, this one here. These seem to turn up a lot. And Carmen, how much are these around?
Like $20.
$20 each. That's about the going rate. I've got one in my collection, so I'll leave these for somebody else to buy.
Randy is a tireless bundle of bargain-seeking energy and food icon expertise.
He is like lightning. I'm not kidding you guys, it's just amazing. He amazes me.
He knows all the tricks of the character trade.
You know, I always tell anybody when they're thinking about things is pick the piece up and put it in your hand, because if you leave something on the table, that gives anybody else an opportunity to pick it up, and I've seen it happen many times.
He can tell the trash from the treasures.
So here we go. Charlie Tuna phone from
Nice
Starkiss,
condition.
1987. It's got the dial, and then this is what you set it on the table. And it's in mint shape, $100.
Bargaining is a must.
How about 40 for the pair?
No, 45.
45's your best. You want to get it?
Today's hunt has turned up some familiar faces.
These were premiums that you would send away for.
And this is the Eat It All Ice Cream Boy. This is an earlier version of him. Now he's a little more modernized, but this is this is dated 1960.
But it takes a few hours to find something worth buying.
This is a Kraft Salad Boy from Kraft Salad Dressing. About 60. Cool. That'll work. Okay, cool. Okay. So here's the first buy of the day, the Kraft Salad Guy for $60. And then it's now 8 o'clock, so we've been walking around for 2 hours, and we've got our first icon.
Back home, the newest find is added to the family. Randy's house is a testament to his earlier triumphs from over 20 years of collecting.
So I always like the food ones because you can relate to that when you're a kid. You know, I remember eating Boo Berry or having Snap, Crackle, and Pop on the box.
There's every imaginable icon, from Jack in the Box to Chiquita Banana.
It has some damage, but with this type of piece, even a little damage affects the value not as much as a more common piece because of the rarity of the piece.
Although Randy is known to search the web for his deals of the century, he prefers doing his collecting the old-fashioned way.
eBay's kind of taken the fun out of the search. I mean, anybody with a keyboard can sit down, type in what they're looking for, and if they're patient enough, find it.
Some might call this obsessive collecting a little, well, crazy, but Randy says it's all just good fun.
The weekend comes and it's more of a kind of an escape to go out of the swap meet or go out to a show or whatever and look for the stuff.
Coming up, there are more collectibles to be found, but this time, they're everywhere. Take a look at an M&M lover's paradise and see how this candy has come to life. When we continue Food Icons Unwrapped.
Hi, welcome back. I'm Mark Summers. Many of the characters we see in ads have gone way beyond just selling that particular product. They have become a billion-dollar business themselves. See these guys right here? They are being sold on lots more than just food packages. They're now on clothing, toys, housewares, and nowhere is that more evident than at the M&M capital of the world. You watch Ali.
Amid the glitter and glitz of Las Vegas is a place where chocolate candies come to life.
When you enter the store, you actually enter the world of the M&Ms, the candies and the characters. Red, yellow, green, blue, and if you can find him, crispy.
M&M's World is a sweet superstore 4 stories high, and it's the only one in the world.
This is the most M&Ms I've ever seen, and probably the most I ever will see.
There are 5,000 goodies to choose from. The amazing thing is that most of the treats in this store aren't even edible.
Papa, can I have this kind of stuff?
That one for Papa?
Yeah.
In the last few years, the M&M's characters have become as popular as the chocolate candies themselves. Marketing experts here can't explain it. They just know it works.
Advertising research shows that the recognition of the characters is actually higher than Snoopy and Mickey Mouse.
The colored candy icons are big business.
It's a wholesome image. You know, there's so many bad things out there for kids these days. I'm glad my daughter collects this stuff.
The candy that melts in your mouth can now decorate your house. You'll find enough stuff here to sweeten your bedroom, bathroom, and kitchen.
We came in and went a little bit crazy.
The M&M's characters adorn everything from bears and bathrobes to lamps and luggage. Prices range from $1 for an eraser to more than $1,000 for a table and chairs. Visitors can stop for a snack at Red's Pit Stop Cafe, have a birthday party, or watch a 3D movie at the M&M's Theater. Today's feature is called I Lost My M in Vegas, starring Red and Yellow. Of course, you can buy M&Ms at M&M's World. This is the only place you can get all 21 colors in both plain and peanut. M&Ms have been around since 1941. The first commercials were black and white, so viewers may not have realized that the original spokes candies were actually red and yellow. They didn't change much until 1995. That's when each color developed its own distinct personality. The candy-coated chocolate characters became instant celebrities.
Red is very conniving, he's very cocky, and he's kind of fun. Yellow is a little innocent, sweet, maybe a little naive.
Green is the only character who wears go-go boots.
Green, she's our green girl character. She's very sexy and sassy and trendy and fashionable.
In 1995, America voted to add blue to the mix.
He's the chosen one, and he's very cool and laid back.
And the last spokes candy, Crispy, was born in 1999.
He's kind of irresistible, so he's paranoid looking around if anybody's going to eat him.
One of the secrets to the store's success is that all of the M&M merchandise reflects the quirks and traits of each character.
There's just too many M&Ms. I don't know what to do with them.
For serious collectors and casual chocolate eaters, this is the ultimate eye candy.
This is cool. If you're an M&M fan, M&M World is definitely the place to be. About 95% of M&M's merchandise is available only at the Las Vegas store. But don't you think about putting your own version of these personalities on t-shirts and selling them on street corners. Let me tell you, food companies carefully protect their logos and their characters, making licensing a big business. Take a look.
These days, food icons can be just as famous as Hollywood hipsters. So these stars of the supermarket are treated as such. After all, someone must protect the Pillsbury Doughboy's precious potbelly and keep Elsie the cow utterly pampered. But licensing logos is a fairly recent development in the food biz.
The food companies, as most other companies, were happy to lend their images because it was free advertising for them. As time went on, however, they began to realize that they were giving away something that they could get money for.
And that story boils down to a couple cans of soup and a 1960s artist named Andy Warhol.
And he made the camel soup can famous. And suddenly, food companies began to realize that they've got an important property here. And so Campbell started to license their name for people who wanted to put them on other products.
Today, with all the officially licensed Campbell's goodies out there, you can even cover your can with the familiar red logo. Companies with something to sell, whether it's a t-shirt or toys, are hoping to hook up with familiar food faces.
And it's been proven time and time again that consumers will pay more for a product that has a recognized name on it than they will for the same identical product that has no recognizable name on it.
But that recognizable name will cost you. The food company receives a cut for each item you sell and also insists that everything is accurate.
What they insist on is that you faithfully reproduce their logo or their image. That's the most important asset any of these companies have.
Reverse licensing is also a big piece of the product pie. Food companies often license famous characters from outside the business, particularly those who are marketing to children, like when E.T. the Alien ate Reese's Pieces in his blockbuster movie.
Just the strength of that movie turned that candy into a very popular candy. And of course, Hershey, in return, started to put E.T. on all their Reese's Pieces.
A sweet licensing success story. So remember, the next time you buy a giant inflatable Chiquita, that logo is big business.
It's not for amateurs licensing. It used to be, but it's not anymore.
Just ahead on Food Icons Unwrapped, remember this? How about this? They didn't last long, but one collector has resurrected these failed faces of food. Then learn more history behind famous cereal spokescreatures.
My name is Boo.
Stick around.
Welcome back to Unwrapped. Cereal characters truly are the kings of the icon jungle. Nearly every box on the shelf smiles back at us. We saw some of our familiar breakfast buddies earlier in the show, and right now we want to meet up with a few more.
No one has had more crazy characters pitching their products than cereal companies.
It didn't take long before they realized they needed a little extra spark to market their cereals.
The spark began in 1933 with a tiny elf named Snap. His cohorts made this solo a trio a few years later. The 1960s ushered in some old favorites like This Crazy Cuckoo. His look is unmistakable, but do you know his name?
I'll just feed Sonny some of these luscious little corn puffs.
Yep, his name is Sonny. And what about this guy's name?
Captain Crunch's first name is Horatio.
Captain Horatio Crunch was created by Rocky and Bullwinkle cartoonist Jay Ward. He gave the captain his look and his story.
He gave him a birth date, which was 1387, I believe, and he actually gave him parents. His mother was an Indian named Gidget Running Star, and his father was Sven Crunch, who was the navigator on the first Viking ship that came to America.
The captain may be capable, but hapless characters have also proven to be popular.
It's the rabbit. The Trix Rabbit always wants to get his hands on the tricks, but he never gets to. And that has been a really successful campaign, and kids kind of like that it gives them the power over the rabbit, but they still see the rabbit as a friend, and they're kind of giving him guidance.
That guidance has in fact paid off. When kids were asked to vote on letting him get his paws on some cereal, he won.
Whee! It's the rabbit, and he ate some tricks. Silly rabbit. Tricks are for kids.
Monsters scared their way onto our breakfast tables in the 1970s. First with Count Chocula and Frankenberry, then joined by Boo Berry.
They're all friends and they're monsters at the same time. And kids are just kind of fascinated with that paradox. These monsters are approachable somehow, so it works.
Many of these characters have become so approachable, in fact, they've gained a following separate from the cereal.
I was at a mall recently, and we had a Lucky the Leprechaun costume. But we didn't have any cereal anywhere, and it was amazing how many kids ran up to him saying, "Lucky!"
They're magically delicious. And with the popularity of the classic icons remaining, it looks like kids of all ages will be embracing these images for years to come.
And they just seem to stick. So as long as it's working, we're not going to change a thing.
While these cereal personalities are huge stars, it's time now for a look at those long-lost characters that weren't quite as durable. Time to look back on those faces that flopped but aren't totally forgotten, well, just yet.
He's the king collector of pop culture's trash.
Don't you just love food icons? I know you do.
From cases of cereal boxes to blown-up pickles, if it was sold in the 60s or 70s and comes with a wacky sidekick, you can bet Dan Goodsell has one.
I've loved the food icons since I was a kid, and I started collecting them, and I found tons of characters that I didn't even remember or know they made.
However, not everyone loves these little guys like Dan, so some creatures find themselves with a pretty short shelf life. Remember Rory Raccoon? How about the Yum Yum Bumblebee Boy? Didn't think so.
There are basically three types of food characters that haven't survived. Products that failed, characters that have changed over time, and characters that they got rid of because they were politically incorrect.
Dan's collection is filled with these failures, especially his cereal aisle.
Here we have a wall of some of my cereal boxes. Some of the characters like Captain Crunch are still around. Other icons like the Spoon Men are long gone. In the 50s, when they introduced Frosted Flakes, they had two icons, Katie Kangaroo and Tony the Tiger. Tony's lasted up till now over 50 years, and Katie, only about a year. Sugar Pops and Sugar Stars had the icons of Sugar Pops Pete and Hillbilly Goat, and these characters were only around for a few years, because who wants to buy cereal from a goat? Quangaroos is gone. Quake is gone. In the late 70s, Lucky Charms got rid of Lucky, the leprechaun, and brought in Waldo the Wizard for a couple of months. Here we have Kaboom. We also have King Vitamin, two cereals that were so packed with vitamins you couldn't eat them. I remember going into the grocery store when I was about, 7 years old, and seeing Freakies on the shelf and falling in love with it.
Sometimes everything old is new again.
On Cocoa Krispies, they started with Coco the Monkey, went to Melvin the Elephant, then Og the Caveman, back to Coco the Monkey again. In the case of some products, they fail, like Quisp, but years later they'll bring it back for a whole new audience.
Nothing's impossible with sugary sweet Quisp.
Cereal is not the only loser. Other characters got dumped for being politically incorrect.
Funny Face had Injun Orange and Chinese Cherry. Fizzy's had an Indian chief and a witch doctor. In the 50s, Oscar Mayer employed Little Oscar, an actor of short stature. He drove around in the Wienermobile promoting their products. But by the 60s, that was not so politically correct, so they changed Little Oscar into a small cartoon boy. But probably the most classic character of all that was politically incorrect was the Frito Bandito. He was a Mexican, and he was a thief. Kind of not the stereotype you want to get across.
Considering the countless characters who flopped, the classics that have lasted decades are even more amazing.
Oh, I wish I were an Oscar Mayer wiener.
Besides icons that failed, there are also the ideas that didn't quite get off the ground. Like, for instance, did you know that Tony the Tiger was up against Newt the New and Zeke the Zebra for the job of cereal frontman, but thank goodness Tony won out. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for watching. See us again next time when we unwrap more secrets behind America's favorite foods. I'm Mark Summers, and I'm great!